Anime is known to contain some of fiction's most overpowered individuals. We got Goku, Kuro Sensei, Gojo Satoru, Saitama, Shiroko Terra, Yakumo Yukari, this character from the When They Cry series whose name I'm too lazy to pronounce, and the f***ing Jonkler. But what if I told you that there was one character who would probably whoop all those other characters' asses negative? Not only that, but also other OP characters outside of anime such as Superman, Batman, the Avengers, Sans Undertale, Death, which really says a lot because Death has never lost a single one of my battle letters. And I'll state my reasons for why I think so in a later part of the video. That character is Hitori Gotou, otherwise known as Bocchi, made famous from the hit 2022 anime Bocchi the Rock. Now, some of you may be wondering, how is Hitori the most overpowered character in anime? He doesn't even have powers! You see, that's where you're wrong. Hitori does have powers, and I have proof. Do you see this? And this? That shit ain't normal for a human being. Unless you're like Zedge King or something. Look at that. Can you do that? Now, some of you may rebut this statement and say,
Actually, that's an artistic exaggeration to portray social anxieties.
wrong! That's cope! That's denial! I have evidence. Hitori's powers are not just simply a reflection of her social anxiety, and I have proof. Here is a clip of Hitori's friends reacting to her weird antics. Except for Ryo, because, Ryo is canonically stupid. And as if that's not enough information to persuade you to thinking that Hitori has powers, let me show you this scene from Bocchi the Rock episode 7. You see, there's this one scene in the episode where Hitori shapeshifts into ash. This contaminates the whole room and causes both Kita and Nijika to feel ill and lay on the floor restless. And as if that's not enough evidence to prove that that is real, Hitori's parents come into the room and panic when they see Kita and Nijika laying on the floor. To further prove my point, her friends bring up the whole ash thing in the next episode, and hence and therefore these weird non-human-like antics that Hitori does in the show are real and proves that she has powers. So yeah, you can actually all you want, but at the end of the day, Hitori is out here breaking reality itself. But then you might be wondering where Hitori got her powers from. Well, I got just the answer for you. To answer this question, we have to think out of the box. Look at this clip from Bocchi the Rock episode 1. What does it remind you of? Some of you might say Tom and Jerry, or Looney Tunes, or Tom and Jerry. But the correct answer is the hit 1994 film starring Jim Carrey, The Mask. Yup, that's right. Hitori is related to The Mask, and if you don't believe me, here's some extra evidence that proves that she has mask powers. Exhibit A, super speed. Exhibit B, shapeshifting. Exhibit C, being able to get flattened. Exhibit D, enhanced skills. Now, some of you skeptical assholes may be like,
hey now, that shit ain't no enhanced skills, that's just normal.
And to that, I have an objection. Hitori self-taught herself to play the guitar. Imagine being able to play a guitar this well without going for any lessons. Hence and therefore, Hitori got her powers from The Mask. Bocchi the Rock is a sequel/spin-off to The Mask. Realize how the background characters didn't really care about The Mask cartoony antics. Like, they could not give less of a shit that there was a green guy in front of them warping reality. Well, that's also how the characters from Bocchi the Rock act. Like, similarly, the characters will go, that was weird, and shrug it off as if it was nothing. Beat for beat reaction. It all makes sense, trust me. They're in the same universe. Now, some of you may be questioning,
if Hitori got her powers from The Mask, why isn't her face green?
oh, you sweet summer child. You think you've got me concerned? You didn't think I've done my research? Allow me to introduce Son of the Mask is a 2005 American animation live-action hybrid sequel to The Mask, starring Jamie Kennedy as the main character, Tim Avery, released by New Line Cinema and directed by Lawrence Guterman. The basic premise of the film is that Tim Avery wears the mask and he fucks his wife with the mask on, which creates a baby with the powers of the mask. Now, this is the only time I can ever give my own personal thoughts on Son of the Mask, so I'll just give a short review on it. For those who are uninterested, just use the time frames in the description to skip to the next segment. Okay, bye! So, I don't think it is too far-fetched for me to say that I am a Son of the Mask connoisseur. I have watched it way more times than the original 1994 film, and I practically watch clips of it on a daily basis. I have watched Son of the Mask more times than I've seen my own reflection. I don't even need to watch it anymore, I just close my eyes and the whole movie plays in my head in 4K IMAX resolution. I've also watched all of the analysis videos on it, you know, the one from this guy, and that guy, and Doug Walker, and this guy, and also the one with Jamie Kennedy, which gave me so much insight into the movie's development. It's really cool. And as you can tell from these thumbnails, many people think that the movie is absolute garbage! Even the people who worked on the movie think it's trash, which is honestly mind-blowing. The director hates it, the actors hate it, the janitor who cleaned the set probably hates it. But I have a differing opinion. Son of the Mask is a cinematic masterpiece and you all just can't see the bigger picture. Personally, I think that LV Avery is an allegory for a child with disabilities. Tim struggles to take care of LV at first, but then he goes through this amazing character arc where he realizes that it doesn't really matter what LV is like. He's his dad, and that alone is why he should love him no matter what. This is perfectly encapsulated in the scene where Tim tells Odin off at the conclusion of the film.
But you're his father. He's your son. And even if you banish him, he's still gonna be your son.
What a beautiful masterpiece, showing that Tim has learned how to accept his son, and he is passing off his lesson to others as well, which really ties up the two subplots together. Yeah, there also really isn't much to hate about this movie. I guess I can agree that the dance scene is pretty cringe, but it gets better once you watch the movie on a daily basis, trust me. And yeah, I guess the visual effects do look kinda outdated, but come on, this movie was released back in 2005, the same year the first Madagascar movie came out. As you can see, making CGI humans was a pain in the ass back then. And if you think that's bad, have you motherfuckers seen the Flash movie?
But H, why does the CGI babies look even worse than the original Mask movie?
Well, maybe it's because it is harder to animate a baby who can't act for shit than Jim Carrey with a fucking green screen for a face. If it isn't obvious by now, Hitori is a descendant of the Avery family. Before any of you funny people ask, "Well, how? Hitori is a Japanese and the Avery family are American." Bro, we know that LV Avery loves cartoons. Who's to say little bro didn't start getting interested in anime in his teenage years and start simping for Japanese women? Plus, Broski was caught watching Transformers in 4K, and we know for a fact that Transformers originally was a Japanese product. LV is a shonen fan, I can feel it. Anyway, so here's how the suspected Avery family tree goes for those of you who are really invested in this topic. Honestly, LV and Hitori have more in common than Stanley, which further supports my theory. Exhibit A, being able to blow themselves up. Exhibit B, morphing their face shape and shape-shifting. Exhibit C, being able to vomit out weird green substance. Exhibit D, being really into Twister. And the others that we previously mentioned as well. Also, strangely, Hitori's family has a dog. You know who else has a dog? The Avery family. You know who else has a dog too? Stanley. Just a little something I wanted to bring up. And for all of you skeptics who still don't believe my theory, just one last piece to the puzzle that might change your mind. Hitori and LV both have the same eye color. Coincidence? I think not! And we know for a fact that LV still has his powers, as at the end of the movie, he breaks the fourth wall by winking to the camera. Henceforth, Hitori is related to LV Avery. But that's all just the surface level, kiddos, for I have yet to reach the part that you've all been waiting for. Alright, I don't think it is too far-fetched to say that Hitori is probably more overpowered than LV.
But Hitori is just a woman!
First of all, f*** you misogynist. Second of all, yeah, sure, a baby is more powerful than a teenage girl. See how y'alls be sounding stupid right now? Okay, so now that we've established that Hitori is stronger than LV, let's start power scaling LV. Now, there are 3 types of people who have powers in the Mask cinematic universe. There's of course, whoever wears the mask, aka Stanley and Tim. There's also gods themselves, aka Loki and Odin. And lastly, people born from the mask, aka LV and Hitori. Now, hear me out for a second. I think the third option is the strongest one. Now, wait a minute. Hold on! As I was saying, LV is definitely one of the, if not the strongest character in the MCU. And I have proof. LV was able to beat Otis, who was wearing the mask. And it wasn't just a one-time thing, nah. He beat the crap out of Otis multiple times. But that's not a fair argument since, dogs are weaker than humans. Shut up! Shut the f*** up and let me talk for a sec! Yeah, you're kind of right. You got a good point there. However, dogs are stronger than babies in real life, so... But even with that aside, I can easily rebut that rebuttal by bringing up this one key moment. LV was able to beat Loki not once, but twice. And additionally, we know that Loki and Tim have the same power levels because the movie outright tells us that they are evenly matched.
We're evenly matched opponents.
And additionally, I am pretty sure that Tim is much stronger than Stanley. You want proof? I can give you proof. There's one scene in the original Mask movie when Stanley morphed his hands into guns. However, they did not work. Tim, on the other hand, he was not only able to morph bigger guns on his hands, but it was also implied that they were able to work. Sure, we never saw it in action, but the only reason why we weren't able to was because Loki erased them. Literally. On top of that, the biggest threat Stanley had to face in the original movie were police officers and thugs with Tommy guns. Tim had to face a literal god. So this would mean that Stanley is weaker than Tim and Loki are evenly matched, and Loki is weaker than LV is weaker than Hitori. Boom, send tweet. Since that's all out of the way, how about we start comparing Hitori's powers to other strong fictional characters? Now, this one is relatively easy. We all know the one thing that Saitama can't beat, right? Flies. All Hitori gotta do is shapeshift into a fly and GG easy win. We know that Hitori can do that since Loki did the same thing as well in the movie. Alright, so we know one of the most memorable abilities that the mask has is super speed. Like, the movie literally pointed it out. On top of that, one of the mask abilities is being able to make your body into a different material. I don't know a better way to describe it, but we can see it here when LV turns his hands into a shield. This means that Hitori can just turn her whole body into that anti-sensei material that Kuro-sensei is weak to, and she uses her super speed to defeat Kuro-sensei. But H, how can Hitori be faster than Kuro-sensei? There's no proof of the mask's true speed. Alas, you have finally brought up a good point, my dear viewee. It's what I would say if I was a fucking idiot! All Hitori gotta do is use that mind manipulation trick that both Stanley and Tim used. From there, Hitori can control Kuro's mind and make him go slower, and boom, he's dead! That's of course assuming that the mask can't outrun Mark 20, which it probably can. Okay, so I might be wrong about this one since I don't keep up with Chainsaw Man as much as the average Joe Schmo. However, I know his weakness. Hot Betty girls. All Hitori gotta do is shapeshift into a 10 out of 10 Betty and Denji will be so down bad. We know Hitori can do this, as we have already established that not only can people with the mask shapeshift, but Hitori herself has done it in the show multiple times. While Denji is distracted, all she gotta do is cut off his arms. That way Denji got no way of using his chainsaws, and then it's game over for him. what is Gojo's weakness? His kind heart, according to Google. So really think about it. Would Gojo really hurt an introverted 16-year-old? So as Gojo is contemplating his life choices, Hitori will take him out with her super strength while he is distracted, easy peasy. We know that the mask gives people super strength because LV was able to lift up and toss around the grown-ass man with pretty much one arm. IDK if Gojo got the super durability. I only watched 2 episodes of JJK, but look at this image I found. Gojo bleeding, which means he is not indestructible. He can be hurt. We know that the mask makes you immune to bullets. That's it, that's all I need to say. Case closed. Now this one is a toughie. Reimu, just like Hitori, can warp realities too, and her bullet patterns are... yeesh. However, after much thought, I realized something. Hitori is probably indestructible. We know this since Stanley was able to eat a whole bomb and feel nothing, and also the bulletproof thing I stated earlier, and also the fact she can change herself into a different material. This means that Reimu's attacks, they're pretty much useless. Doesn't matter how crazy her bullet pattern is or what spell card she uses, Hitori will tank it. Now, there's no way one could possibly beat Reimu, so this will be a tie, right? Yes, that's right. Reimu was beaten before, which means it is possible for Hitori to do the same. All Hitori gotta do is materialize her hands into guns and start shooting Reimu. Eventually, Reimu will just give up, just like what she did in Imperishable Night after fighting Marissa and Vermilia. Hitori can just shapeshift into a giant eraser and erase Goku out of existence. We've seen Loki do it, so it's possible for Hitori to do the same thing too. Alright, now let's get to the characters outside of anime. We'll start with a classic one, Clark Kent, aka Superman. Now, a lot of you may think that there's no way Hitori gonna beat Superman. Like, ain't no way she could literally beat a multiversal threat. Except you're forgetting one thing. The mask can materialize anything, which means that Hitori could potentially pull out kryptonite from her hammer space and kill Clark. Bruce Wayne, the world's greatest detective. This will mean that he will be able to make a contingency plan to defeat Hitori, right? Hitori would easily take out Batman for the sheer reason that Bruce has canonically lost to the mask before. He was beaten up real badly after the Jonkler wore the mask.
But H, Batman was able to beat the Jonkler with the mask eventually.
Yeah, amazing point you brought up, kiddo. But you gotta realize this. Batman only defeated the Jonkler because he was able to convince the Jonkler to take the mask off. Do you realize that Hitori has no mask to take off? So no matter what, Hitori will always have her powers. Additionally, if you watch Simple Comic Bro's video of Batman's contingency plan to beat the mask, the 2 methods that Bruce comes out with is convincing the person to take off the mask, which we already established that doesn't affect Hitori. The second method is to teleport the mask user to somewhere else that has sunlight, so the mask would come off. So basically, whoever wears the mask can only use its powers at night. However, this will not work as Hitori's powers work perfectly in the day. Additionally, LV was able to use his powers in the day too. So yeah, no way Batman could beat Hitori even with prep time. Okay, so really think about it. Hitori is stronger than LV, right? LV is stronger than Loki, right? Pretty safe to assume that Loki from the MCU is stronger and has more abilities than Loki from the MCU. The craziest thing Loki did in the Avengers was shape-shifting and mind control, which the Loki from Son of the Mask can easily do, on top of other things such as materializing a giant grenade out of thin air. And the Avengers had a hard time beating their version of Loki. So if you really think about it, the Avengers are weaker than Loki, who's weaker than the Mask Loki, who's weaker than LV, who's weaker than Hitori. Hitori solos the Avengers. Spider-Man. My favorite superhero of all time. A kid who perfectly encapsulates what makes heroes so special to so many people. Yeah, I'm sorry, Spider-Man's not beating Hitori. Don't get me wrong, Peter Parker is really overpowered. He has super strength, spider sense, strong webbing, super durability, really smart, and he doesn't really have a clear weakness, unlike Superman. Lil Bro even single-handedly took down the Avengers in one of the comics, so I think that speaks volumes as to how overpowered Peter truly is. However, there is one weakness Peter has. Have you all watched Spectacular Spider-Man? Remember that time Peter made that substance that could remove his powers? Well, all Hitori gotta do is mind control Spider-Man into drinking it, and he'll become Spider-Man no more.
But how will Hitori know that substance exists?
The mask can read minds. We've seen LV do it, so... And on top of that, if all fails, Hitori could just materialize a bottle of
ethyl chloride,
which could weaken Peter's senses. All Hitori gotta do from there is use her super strength to beat the ever-living hell out of Spider-Man, since Spider-Man can't dodge anymore. On the topic of red and blue superheroes that I really like, Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots. This one is actually really simple. We all know Optimus is a kind and caring individual. Unless you're watching Bayverse, then that's an entirely different story. So first, right, Optimus would try and talk things out with Hitori because we all know he would never want to hurt a human, right? So while Optimus is giving his little speech, all Hitori gotta do is,
Hey, look what I got! Beep.
Ain't no way. That's the matrix of leadership.
Honestly, I can't believe I have to tell y'all that Hitori one-shots Sans. I'm being literal here. She one-shots him because he only has 1 HP. Oh, but the karma damage. Shut your mouth, fanboy. Karma only affects people who have done wrong things. Do you really think Hitori has killed anyone? Yeah, didn't think so, huh? All Hitori gotta do is tank all of Sans's attacks, and once he's out of stamina, she can punch him and Sans is dead. Death is not a person or someone. They are a concept. As long as you have the possibility of dying, death can beat you. Death comes for us all. Unless you're Hitori Gotou. You see, I don't think Hitori can die. As we've already established, the mask pretty much makes you invincible to attacks. And I honestly do not think that LV and Hitori can die of old age. I'm pretty sure they're actually immortal, like there's no way of beating them. Which means that since Hitori can't die, the concept of death can't beat her. So that's it, innit? Hitori solos all of fiction. Except, take a look at the thumbnail very carefully. Potentially, Hitori theoretically could be all of these powerful fictional characters, but there's one big weakness that will make her lose every battle. Hitori Gotou's weakness isn't something that can be punched or defeated with strength. It's her own nature. Despite having the power to take on the most powerful characters in fiction, Hitori doesn't want to fight. She's a quiet, introverted girl who prefers peace and avoids conflict. Her true weakness lies in her reluctance to engage in battle. If the fight ever came down to protecting her friends, she would immediately give up before it is even started. She values her friends above all else, and if someone threatened them, she would choose to surrender to protect them. However, there's a more tragic side to this: the cost of immortality. Hitori can live forever, but she'll always have to watch her friends grow old, age. They'll die over and over again, while she remains unchanged. That's a lonely, heartbreaking existence. Well, I can't wait for Bocchi the Rock Season 2 to come out. Wait, what's this? Wait a minute. voice crack was really something.